yes to that. Thank you. So just welcome everybody to the 1776 Syndicate. We appreciate your participation and your memberships. And a lot of the comments about what's on the back end of the syndicate, the resources that are there, the campaign guide, the budget guide, as well as these calls are all recorded, as we all just said yes to. And they're recorded as a resource for people to look back on, to hear these stories, what's going on, as well as the advice of our guests. And I think also equally important, the Q&A time that we have with elected officials or the guests themselves and what they bring to the table. So again, thank you for the comments. And if you weren't aware of all those resources on the back end, 1776 members have access to all that. So we ask that you keep your caller on mute. And if you've got questions for any one of us or the speaker, you're welcome to raise your hand, or you can type the question in the chat screen, and we're happy to bring those questions up. I'll do that as the moderator. And then we're also asking that you don't record them, because we are, and these are really our asset to provide to our members. And then finally, no poor conduct. We want to respect our hosts and the topics of conversation and our position on all the subjects at hand. So if you do get online, I'm just going to cut you off and kick you out. So thank you for that. Okay. I had the pleasure of meeting Alex Weber very randomly, almost, I don't know, 8-9 months ago, through more than likely his publicist, requesting him to be on my podcast show, which is called The Answer Is Yes. So how could I say no when somebody presents an American Ninja Warrior that's been a champion and all these great accolades that we included in the invite tonight? And what I realized from my conversation with Alex is that there was so much more to him than just the interview, than just his story about being an American Ninja Warrior and his 6 seasons and his host and all these other things. There was a fire inside of Alex. And it was interesting, once I stopped recording the podcast, that Alex said, gosh, I feel like I have a voice and I'm ready to use it, but I'm not sure. And we went back and forth about, what do we do with our voice? And I'm sure that most of us have been there at one point or not in our lives of, will we lose friends? Will we lose business? Will we be attacked? How do we have a voice in the society that we live in today? And that was the discussion that Alex and I had. And I want to say within a week, I was on Instagram and Alex is in a field and he's shouting his voice. And I was not only proud of him, but I respected the position that he had taken for his own belief system. And knowing that he was working for NBC, I could only imagine at the time the ramifications. And so we want Alex to share his story tonight as somebody that's made some hard choices for his belief, his faith, his constitutional rights, as well as what he's doing about that and his voice that he's got and maybe some of the success. So Alex, I'm going to give you the floor. Take 20, 25 minutes, tell your story, and then we'll open it up for Q&A and we'll go from there. So thank you so much for being here tonight.
Gosh, thank you. Thank you, Jim. And thank you, Rod. It's, I'll kind of cite that first meeting as well. So I had a book come out this fall, which, is a great thing. I poured a lot into it. I love it. I stand by everything in it. And it was exciting. But all the while I was just wrestling, it was about October, November. And I was just wrestling. I was doing these interviews and, for lack of eloquence, a big part of me was like, cool, man, you did a book. There's a war on humanity. That was just the voice that was kind of going inside me. And I was scheduled to do one with Jim, which I was so fired up just about everything, his background. And then I don't know what did it, but whatever our soul, instinct, intuition, heart, I think just in the first minute, I think there was enough that we both kind of just connected with, that we were basically just like, what do you think about the world? And, kind of treaded lightly. And then we did the interview. And then afterwards we just dove in. And, since then, I just truly can't thank Jim and Rod enough for their passion, their patriotism, their steadfast, unwavering support of me, of freedom, of people, of America. So truly honored to be here with you both and for all the work that you do. I'll give kind of my streamlined background of, where I'm at now. So, my occupation, I'm a keynote speaker, which I really, really love to do. I didn't even know that was a thing. So I'll speak at companies, I'll speak to universities, I'll speak to pro athletes, I'll speak to elementary school students. So it's, anywhere from 50-year-old business leaders of really big companies to literally talking to frat dudes and little kids. And so it's all over the map. And I feel really honored to have that as an occupation. And I've been a host for NBC American Ninja Warrior and won an award. In that journey of hosting, I fell in love with the sport and then became a 2-time competitor. I won U.S. Lacrosse Coach of the Year in my first season, was one of the youngest to win that. And, I've had a few other chapters, but I really felt like I was doing. So one question, it's in the book, it changed my life when I was a senior in college. I asked myself, what do you want to do with your moments on earth? That's it. I don't know if there's a more important and honest question that we can answer. And it's also a very fortunate question if we get to answer it, because there's been a lot of seasons of humanity where thinking and answering that question was not a luxury presented. And we've kind of dabbled in one of those chapters. But anyways, I answered that and I've always followed that. And that led me to what I was doing in early March 2020, which was literally speaking. I just spoke to a big organization. I went down to Mexico to speak to their young government. I was coming back to compete on American Ninja Warrior. My mom, who's had stage 4 cancer, was going to be my guest of honor. And I was like, you know what? This feels pretty right. This feels like I'm doing the highest version of my purpose here. And those next 3 days really changed a lot, because it was March 12th was the night before the competition. So they asked all the athletes to get on a phone call. They postponed the competition as basically my email got flooded of like my occupation for the next foreseeable future, which is speaking at live events, which, yes, it's my livelihood, but also it's what I find my reason for life. That went out the window. And I kept training and I broke my hand. And when I broke my hand 2 days later, I let go. I was just done. I was done with this reality. And, the way that it was kind of set up with quarantine, you kind of could do that. All that's to say, 2020, I was really dark and depressed. Even if there was some quote unquote professional things happening, me, Alex, I was not doing well. Now that led me 2021, beginning of it, I started a men's group called Men We Admire, about men becoming men we can admire for ourselves and for the world. That's been really powerful. I competed again in 2021. I wrote a book. So some professional things were going, but why I say that was it was 2021 when I first had that realization of, okay, there's a lot of evil going on. This feels a little deeper than just greedy politicians or greedy corporations or shady, that's always been around. But this felt a layer deeper. And I started to listen to some things which I would maybe deem conspiracy theory, but then I'm looking at who's saying it. I'm like, this is a really stand-up individual. This is a credentialed individual. This is someone talking with a lot of logic and sense. And then you kind of cross-reference and you're like, well, why would that person agree with that person? And then you go with your own intuition. And I say all that because April 2021 was my first realization of, okay, there is evil going on and you have abilities that can fight for good. Why I bring that up is because of what Jim mentioned, the social, the professional repercussions that happened that were intentionally set up such that if you speak your mind, they're going to crush you. They're going to crush you personally. They're going to crush you professionally. These are not dumb people. As much as, it'd be nice to hope that, these are very smart people with a long-term strategy who are doing this. That's my personal belief. So those next months where I knew that I had skills and abilities to do something about this, but was too scared to, were really dark months. I was very depressed. I had suicidal thoughts, only in the sense of my soul, whatever that means to you, was just like, you know why you're on this earth. So anything you do that is not this, you're not gonna be able to ignore it. There's no workout, there's no movie, there's no alcohol, there's no vacation, there's no escape from that truth. Until finally it just came to a head in about November. A little earlier than that, I started sharing some things. And then basically November, I just decided, you know what? I don't care. I don't care if I lose friends or even if family distances or if I lose professional. And let me rephrase that. It's not that I didn't care. It was that, you know, I've said this before, but you go to sleep with your soul. You go to sleep with your soul. So if you're not honoring that, and we'll unpack that in this conversation, but there's a lot of ways to honor it, you know, for each of us in our lives. But I couldn't keep going on this planet not doing it. So when you get to that point, what's the choice? And that took a lot of different forms. My mission is to share the truth with humor, heart, and heat. So try to make people laugh at times, try to come from a human being with heart to a human being, and then come with passion at times, and just different tactics for communicating the truth. And that, it's an interesting thing, because when I did that really from my heart and soul and who I really am, it hit a chord. Anytime I've done it where I've tried to like, oh, I hope, you know, I don't upset people, it doesn't, because it's not really true. But anyways, that led to some opportunities, popularity at times, experiences, things. And it's funny, you know, I will say out of the gates, I think we got to throw our political system away and start from scratch. If that offends people, that's your choice. I think that it is not okay that we have the greatest rivalry on the planet. Forget the Lakers and the Celtics, forget the Yankees and the Red Sox. You've got the donkeys versus the elephants, red versus blue. Every 4 years you're in the championship. That's silliness to me. So I always, with political system, I was just like, this is all nonsense. It wasn't until these last couple of years that I looked at my views and my values, and that I looked at who was speaking those values without a team. And I will not say the Republican Party as a whole, because there's a lot of people who continue to make choices and do things that I don't agree with. But I will say that I was really pleasantly surprised by the amount of conservative figures that were just speaking a lot of truth and standing for values that, to me, I don't agree with every single one, especially on some charged topics, but on the whole, what they're standing for here, faith, family, work hard, earn a living, take care of yourself, live and let live. I don't know. I mean, on paper, I thought that's what the Democrats, like, aren't they supposed to be the people lovers? But they're doing a whole lot of dark things. And here you got, you know, I travel the country, I talk with people. I've heard some of the most incredibly open-minded, heartfelt opinions from people that if you saw them on a liberal meme, they'd brand them as a racist bigot. And they're not. They're really good-hearted, good-valued people who just want to live free, take care of their dang family, and live. So all that's to say, I you know, and I don't know where I'm at with the timestamp, but I'll kind of touch on two other bits here. It was American Ninja Warrior. So this spring, I prayed a lot. I've always been a very spiritual person, a man of faith. It's been over the last 6 months that Alex, have started talking to God, and that I've started saying that word. I always said universe or source, or now I talk to God, and I pray every day and ask for guidance of what is my purpose here. And January, February, March, I basically pursued professional speaking and was doing it while sharing videos and also exploring politics. And it was a pretty, I'll kind of finish with this. I knew that it would be an intense 3 months, and it very much was. Training for American Ninja Warrior, trying to make entertainment videos for the internet, doing professional speaking, and also exploring the political realm, taking meetings and seeing if there was legs there and if that was my purpose with God. And it kind of came to a head where I was unable to compete on American Ninja Warrior this year. I want to be very clear that I absolutely love NBC. I really do. They've changed my life. I absolutely love American Ninja Warrior and the sport and the people who make it. It is an unfortunate thing of where the world is at, that the vaccine was mandated. And so I was not able to compete. And that really, was a tough thing. But, people are losing their livelihoods. There's people who are taking it against their will and having chronic issues. So I have perspective. But that kind of came to a head, and some political opportunities felt very much like they were unfolding. And I say this because it kind of, as things do, was building slowly. And then in like 48 hours went like, poof, you're in or you're out. And like an opportunity presented itself. And I would say on a short list of like 2, maybe 3 calls where I was like, I need to make this decision, were Jim and Rod. And, I didn't know what they were going to say. And they're pretty much like, let's go. It was a nutty 24 hours because not even 24 hours, but maybe 4 hours, because I told, the people who had been kind enough to help me with an opportunity that I was in. I started mentally rearranging my life of going into that. And it turned out that opportunity was not really there as much as it appeared. So I have realized that my purpose right now is to keep doing the speaking, share truth, help people, inspire people, and also be a loud voice for sharing the truth in this next season through the internet, through conversations, through doing things like this, sharing the truth. And the truth is only offensive if you're against it. And that's something I keep realizing. So if you got a problem with the truth, that's your problem. And to lean on humor, heart, and heat to do it. So yeah, I guess that's kind of my slightly rambling, meandering background. But that brings me to, this moment right here with y'all.
Alex, thanks. Thanks for being transparent and telling some of your story. I've got a few questions that I'll tee up for now, as others maybe formulate their own questions. I'd like to hear from you about, once you found your voice, what it was like to travel and be in communication with people that might have differed in opinion in professional capacity. Because I remember after I met you, I started actively following your activities. You were on like a morning news show across the country almost every other day. And all I can think about in my mind was, I know Alex has had a voice out in social media. Certainly that interviewer on whatever channel it was on knew something about you, and you held it together. But what was that like as you transitioned from, being silent to being very vocal?
It's interesting, and I'm not going to lie. It's interesting. And I'll say there's kind of 2 camps. There's the people that are close to you, and there's the people that not, but it's all right. I think maybe the best offering that I can give here, and I'll give some personal anecdotes of it, but I think the takeaway is to really say what you really feel and what you can really hang your hat on and stand by. Because even today I was going to post something that was a little bit emotionally charged on my end, and I don't know if I fully stand by it. And my learning over this last, I guess it's been like, 6 to 9 months, I'd say 9 months of like speaking, not what everyone's going to love. But what I know to be true is that there's going to be a wave of things you see, meaning people are going to write a comment, people are going to reach out to you, people are going to say things. Some of those people you don't know, and you can probably, chalk it up as an internet troll. Where it gets tough is when there are people that you know and you care about, meaning I'm officiating a friend of mine's wedding, and I spoke about Canada and it really upset his fiance. And we'll repair, we're good friends, but I've also had two high school friends really distance themselves from me. I've had a family member say not awesome things. And so why I say that is like internet trolls are easy to kind of shake off. You know, you still obsess of like, why do they think that? But you can kind of shake it off. The people close to you, it stings. It really does. And I'll also say why I feel like, but if you can stand by it, if you're like, you know what, I really believe this. And I also think that I said it in a way that I can stand by, then what more can you do? You know, and the last thing I'll say on that is there's also going to be people that you don't see, meaning, you know, to Jim's point, I work in a lot of different settings and I work in schools and I'm going to be on a morning show on Monday and American Ninja Warrior and speaking to companies. And I'm sure that there has been some ripple effect of someone seeing something that I said or did and didn't agree with it. And maybe they didn't want to work with me. Again, I just go back to, you got to be clear on, can you live without sharing the truth? Or do you feel it in you like you need to do it? And if you feel like you need to do it, you have to do it. I mean, you don't, but your soul's going to let you know. So I would just say the mechanism or the tactic for doing it would just be really be clear that this is what you feel. Don't let another internet personality or a news show or a politician influence it. Really be clear on what you want to say and try to, you know, be your highest self in communicating it. And then whatever happens is going to happen.
God's will. Alex, beautiful answer, because when I think about a lot of people that are running for office, which is the point of being on these calls, is to learn, is they're going to experience exactly what you experienced, maybe at a different level in a different format. But your point about your closest friends surprising you on occasion, and I remember that story as you started to tell it.
Yeah.
So thank you for that. The second question I want to add, and then I see Rod's got his hand up. I got to admit, I was overly impressed by your circle of friends on Ninja Warrior. I had the chance to meet Nate and Karsten, and I thought, wow, here's three gentlemen on one show, you know, that all represent their godly beliefs, the Constitution, and what they stand for. And I know all three of you made a decision not to be vaccinated based on your faith and what you stand for. And my question to you is, it feels like there's more people out there that share the same beliefs as we do. And maybe we don't just see that in our little bubble in the town we live in. Can you talk a little bit about your experience beyond your own personal bubble and more people like Nate and Karsten?
Yeah. You know, I've wondered this, but for whatever reason, there is a very large Christian, a lot of athletes in Ninja Warrior are Christian. And that back in 2017 was the first real reopening of my eyes to faith in a different way. So I'm really deeply thankful to them. It was a beautiful, seeing how they lived and shared it was a really beautiful. And I always joke with people like, I was coming to it not as a little kid whose parents forced them. I'm coming as a grown man who graduated from Ivy League school, and you know, I'm coming with an analytical, kind of skeptical eye. And I was like, this is good stuff here. So to answer your question, what you mentioned, which is like, are there more of us than maybe you'd see? So many. You know, and I still think there's like a little bit of shame or like dirtiness if you are quote unquote unvaccinated, which is I hope that shakes off. I know there's a pretty big media marketing campaign to have it stick, but yeah, I just think that there is, I'll say this, the singular issues are going to change, meaning the border, the vaccine, Ukraine, Russia, gas, like the singular issues are going to change and evolve. But I think this foundation of people who are just like, can we just be free? Can we just live and take care of ourselves and work hard and provide and get opportunities and live the American dream that seemed to be a real thing? I think that that is the vast majority. And yeah, I just, it's an, we have numbers, but it's an uphill battle because the game is changing, and it's changing intentionally by very, very, very influential, powerful, rich people. So it's a long game.
Well, again, I appreciate your honesty on that. And I'll just reiterate, it's refreshing to see the fact that several people in the Ninja Warrior Society of NBC are not only Christians, but they stand behind their constitutional right to not get the vaccine. So thank you for being a part of that group. I do talk to those guys and I appreciate them as well. Rod, you've got a question. I think what we'll do here, because we've got a fair amount of time, is I'll continue to ask the other questions I've got in the back of my head. If you don't have one, you can also put your questions in the chat box if you don't want to speak out loud. But Rod, go ahead.
Thanks, Jim. And Alex, I want to thank you for hopping on tonight. I really appreciate you and the fact that you've stood up and you've already had a voice, but you're finding a new use for your voice. And I want to make a comment first, and then I'm going to ask my question. And my first comment is I'm going to add a fourth H to your humor, heart, and heat. And that is honesty. Because you are honest with your feelings, with your, where you're at with this, and you are so vulnerable with, that dark place you were in. And many of us have been in that dark place where, we question, if I'm not doing what I'm supposed to be doing, I shouldn't be doing anything. And I get that. And to come to terms with that is a pretty big deal. So I get where you've been and what you've come through to be to this point. And so now that you found your voice, well, you've found a new use for your voice. You already had the voice, you had the platform. So my question is, how do you navigate the world when you now know what you know? I mean, how do you change that whole perspective? I mean, you had your life mapped out in front of you with Ninja Warrior and a public speaker and an author and all these things. How do you make that fundamental shift? Because I see you call it humor, but your humor is different. It's satire and sarcasm that cuts. And it's still humor, but it is so well tooled and well refined. And I think that's part of what you're doing. But how do you find that place? How do you redefine your voice?
Well, thank you for what you said there, brother. I appreciate that. And I'll be honest, that one thing I need to work through, and I'm altering my view to have more compassion, is when I see people walk around outside with a mask with no one 30 yards from them. My lesser self, this is a few months ago, and I had to catch myself. There was a man, I'm in Boulder. There's Colorado University of Boulder here, college kids. There's like a 20-year-old kid, male, in his car, driving, windows up, masked. My instinct was to yell, like, take it off. Like, what are you doing? But I just was driving here to the Ninja Warrior gym, and I saw someone walking outside, a young man again, masked up. No one is in a football field around. And I've changed my perspective to, rather than being angry by that or any of those emotions, to honestly just, I'm sorry for you. Like, I'm really sorry that, one, you either have that level of fear, because that must be very difficult to live with. If you truly are that afraid, then that's got to be horrible. Or the other option is, virtue signaling, like, look at how good of a person I am because I'm doing this for others, in which case I feel for you, because you're probably not that great of a person if wearing a piece of cloth is your way of being a good person. So I guess what I'm trying to say is I don't know. I saw a New York Times post today that's like, the next wave of COVID is coming. I think I probably have an added fire because of what it does to my purpose of being with people and speaking to people and all of that, and how much I don't want to ramble on this or be, meanderingly ineloquent. COVID represents everything that I am not. It represents everything that I think is dark and evil. It says, go away, be scared, don't be around people, don't engage with the world, don't go after things, don't live life, don't, shut it down, be in the womb, be scared, and don't go around people. So it's everything I'm against. So this really is like the one where if it comes back, I'm in the fight. So I think once you've been tapped, which I feel like everyone in this community has probably been tapped, of like one of your sensors is kind of like updated, or you're calibrated to actually seeing it. You can't unsee it. And I think it's just figuring out what is the balance between sustainability, meaning you can't look at all these news shows and just be in the living room getting all worked up and angry. And I have to remind myself that, because that's not healthy for us. But also that balance of not blocking it out and figuring out what is a meaningful way that you can take action. And my last thought on this is that it's going to look different for everyone. What I really would encourage you to do, I call brave honesty, but I would really just look and say, what is the courageous way that I can do this? There's probably going to be the easy way to do it. And then there's probably going to be the outrageous, unrealistic way to do it. And somewhere in the middle is probably the place where we all need to be, which is a little uncomfortable. It's a little bold. It's outside our comfort zone, but it's meaningful. So I would just encourage people to explore what might that look like.
Alex, good response. By the way, I imagine what you read in the newspaper, the height of that is going to be late October, leading into the beginning of November, just before Election Day. We should all be locked up in our homes. So I don't know, just small prediction, but that's possible.
Yeah. Probably ramping up for a mandatory flu vaccine too, which has just never happened before. But yeah.
So having some fun with that, I think you touched on something that is right in line with my question for you. Another thing that I've seen you manage to do well, and you touched on in the call, is you've built your own tribe. And I think it's so important that we have our own tribe around us to spend time with one another, lift each other up, pray together, share common beliefs. And, building a tribe is something that's come natural to me, and I presume it's probably natural to you. How would you recommend people that it's harder to do to build a tribe? How do you start to build that trust in people and that following? I know it's kind of a complicated question, but, when I look at this group, a lot of times people throw their name into the hat to do something bold, like run for office. And once they do it, they look back and go, wow, what did I get myself into? How do I build the confidence and the team to help me with that? I'm wondering if you have any advice about that.
Yeah, well, I would say, building a tribe, it does take effort. And, Jim and Rod, you both doing this, it takes effort. And there's ups and there's downs and side turns. And, I run a freedom community as well. And I also run that men's group called Men We Admire. And it takes commitment and effort. It does. But it's also doable. And I've learned that too from a few things that I've started and done, whether that was, coaching US Lacrosse Coach of the Year, or I co-founded a secret comedy series, which really grew, and we're in 40 different cities. It's things grow. A great quote from my dad is "Things lead to things," which I thought was one of the more profound things I've ever heard. And I think that's true. So all that's to say, start. And three's a party. So if you can get three people, you're moving. And to what Jim just said there, my eyes too, if that had come to be, and I Rod gave me good advice on this as well, of kind of the appetite or the possibility has been present now. And I do think in 2 years, if this still feels right, I probably will run then. But the notion of it became a little less daunting when I realized, you do put together a team. So you're not going on this conquest alone. You will have team members to work with and support. And you know, you got to navigate that and dynamics and find the right people and all that good stuff. But we're good in groups, we're good in teams, we're good in squads. There's support, there's accountability, there's strategy, there's meetings, things are happening. So yeah, I mean, I would just say exactly what Jim said. If you're thinking about it, dive in, get the team rocking. And also, and this is just something I've learned from American Ninja Warrior, and anytime I've done something intense, like evaluate as you go and learn, but don't really pick your head up for like a month. Like, you know, learn what's working. Okay, we can do this better in the meeting. We can course correct, but don't like reevaluate your journey for like you know, you got to like get in, get messy, splash around, create some ripples, create some movement, and then pick up your head and see the progress and the momentum. If you're looking at it 2 days in, a week in, there's probably not going to be enough progress to really feel that foundation.
Got it. Thank you. John, I had a question for John Fuller. Alex, I'm going to give you a speaking break for a minute. Get your breath. By the way, Alex just came from the gym before the call, is Ninja Gym. So
That's the chalk. Yeah.
John, earlier in the call, we've talked a few times about our faith. And it's interesting how faith comes up a lot amongst conservatives in the Republican Party, or just conservatives in general. And oftentimes you talk about the God-given rights that we have as Americans. And I just love how you explain that. Would you mind explaining that to the group one more time for me?
Okay. Well, thank you, Jim. And Alex, thanks so much for your enthusiastic presentation. You make me jealous. I wish I was 50 years younger. Well, maybe 40. But anyway, when we talk about faith, conservatives, I think most conservatives have a deep faith. And to understand that the basis of Christianity is the only religion that makes possible the ability to create the United States of America. Only Christianity teaches us that we were Imago Dei, we were born in God's image, okay, and therefore, and we recognize that it was God that gave us life, okay. Secondly, we recognize that God gave us free will, which is liberty, okay, and he gave us the ability to choose to obey him or choose to disobey him, whichever, but that is liberty and freedom, and he gave us that. And last but not least, he told us that he would judge us equally under his law. So equality under the law is a prerequisite for the creation of the United States of America, those three things. And so conservatives obviously want to preserve those things. And I remind everyone that your life and your liberty and your equality under the law means that it was God that gave those to you, not man, not government. And since God gave them to you, they cannot be taken away. And that is what, and I would offer that the progressives or the enemy or whomever wants us to get away from our faith, wants us to ignore where our our rights come from, because if we can get away from our faith, we deny where our rights come from. By denying where our rights come from, then we can be easy prey for tyrannical government.
Eloquently spoken by John Fuller. He's our state legislator here in Montana, running for a Senate district here in the local city. John, I'm going to ask you an additional question to that, and we'll keep it brief, but I just thought about it as you were speaking. With people running for office, a very common question about people's position about the life portion that God gave us is abortion. And I understand implicitly through discussions with you why conservatives feel the way they do. Could you just give us an explanation from your perspective as a long-term conservative Christian about abortion and where life begins?
Well, I now have my legalistic argument designed to appeal to people of less faith than me. That is, the legalistic argument is that people, they like to say, use the word science. We believe in science. Well, the science now proves that upon conception, new DNA has been created. Part one. We use DNA legalistically to determine all kinds of things. In criminal law, to determine the presence of a criminal. In paternity suits, to determine the paternity or heritage of a child. We can even use it forensically to determine identity of someone. Okay, so it is no doubt then that science has now proved that upon conception, a new person has been created. Okay, secondly, is that the Constitution of the United States, the 14th Amendment of the Constitution says clearly and definitively, no state shall deny any person of life, liberty, or property without due process of law. Therefore, point 3, killing a person without some adjudication process in advance is unconstitutional, clearly. Now, does that mean that we can eliminate abortion? No, not necessarily, but it means that having someone claim privilege or privacy rights and the right to kill someone is unsustainable and unconstitutional. So that's my legalistics of faith. Know that God says, I knew you in the womb. And it created, and you know that. But when you're dealing with non-believers, sometimes you have to find another avenue or platform from which to argue.
Perfect. Thanks, John. By the way, John mentioned his internet was down a little bit, so if you got a little spotty there. I just feel like it's important that in the syndicate we offer different ways that we can respond to our adversaries on really important topics. And John's always done that very eloquently. I know Brian also had a comment there. Rod, you've got a question for Alex. Thanks for your patience.
Thanks, Jim. And thanks for that too, John. I appreciate that. And your comment too, Brian. Self-evident is one of those things that falls under common sense. And unfortunately, it's not so common anymore because we've been deceived. So many people have been deceived. But I'm going to take this a different direction, Alex, because I know in your journey, you're also doing some other things. And I've been privileged to be on several of your international town halls. And I believe Chanel, you're from Canada, if I'm not mistaken. I recognize you. Welcome tonight to 1776 Syndicate in America. So I want to kind of bring this around in a little bit different way, and that is, we're in a representative form of government, and so that means we use our voice to represent. You know, in the elected field, we use our voice to advocate for what our constituents want to do, right? So, and that's different than democracy. We're not just taking a vote on it. And I know John has the wonderful sheep analogy with that. But, you know, you are using the power of your voice by getting the town hall together. And if you could just speak for a moment on, you know, yes, you're not running for office right now, but you are in fact representing a group of people. You're letting them use their voice, but it's on your platform. So you really are a politician already. So how do you, I guess my question is, are you seeing that correlation? And what takeaways do you have from your town hall? And what direction will you be going with that politically or professionally?
Well, thank you for that, Rod. And I also wanted to say, it was awesome to hear John's insights there. And John was a guest back in the fall on the town hall, and just so much respect for his presence and leadership. And Rod and Jim have been amazing with the town hall. So that basically started in November when, I shared a video that Jim mentioned, which was, I think, mine. Here it is. This is what I think about everything. I don't care what anyone says or if there's repercussions. That was my soul just letting it go. And this is the truth of life, is people respond to other people's hearts and souls and minds. I respond when other people are like that. I've been fortunate to have people respond with me when I'm like that. And I didn't really have a next step, nor do I. I will say that, though, after this last Sunday, I see more clarity with it, which is people need a place to connect. People need a place to connect, especially on topics like this, where we aren't as cheered on to speak openly about it. It's not celebrated. And oftentimes you're saying uncomfortable but important things. And so thankful. And I just kind of swiped over and saw Janelle and Joelle are on this. So thank you for being here. And my vision for this season of life, which is, if I'm not going to be running for office, how can I be meaningful in this next, let's call it year until then, is to just share the truth. And I love your fourth H there. And in it, to welcome in people whenever they jump on, whenever they join in the journey or want to come to the truth, come on in. If that's today, if that's 7 videos in, or you see something, come on in. And for it to be there for people who need it, because that was one of my takeaways over the last times we've done this, is we just need a place to talk about how we're doing with this, because maybe we can't with our friends or family or colleagues.
Awesome. Thanks, Rod. Taylor's got a question. Go ahead, Taylor.
Thanks, Jim. Well, Alex, I really appreciated everything that you had to say. You made so many great points. So thank you for being on here. Thanks for hosting this. This is just an amazing resource. So earlier on, you touched on kind of how you feel like the whole political system could stand to be revamped. So I guess my question for you right now is, what is your ideal vision for, how would you change it if you could?
That's a great question. All right. I'm going to grant myself a little bit of freedom here to be ignorant in a certain way. I'm thankful for our judicial system. There's been a few wins of the law holding up over this last season where I've been like, okay, cool. We're not completely corrupt. If the judicial system, if some judges in some legal cases defended or gave outs, and this is ongoing, so we'll see, to some of these corrupt individuals that are doing the evil, I think welcome to the revolution. Welcome to the revolution. I still think we have a chance to be an America that we once were. That's not the America we are now. And I think that it takes a lot of bold, brave people in office who are doing the right thing for the right reasons. And that doesn't mean you can't get funding from organizations and all that, but it does mean you got to stand for what America is about. And there's just a lot of people in office that I don't see doing that. So my answer would be, I think what's happening now, which is a lot of people stepping up and saying, I'm in. And that's where I felt called to do. And I think that I'll end with this. I hope that there will continue to be great people running, which there are. Whether it's these elections in the fall or, Trump or whoever does it in whatever it is, the next election, 2024. What I'm getting at is, if there is not election integrity, welcome to the revolution. I think we got one more shot here for election integrity. And I don't know, I'll speak for myself. If I'm voting for our leaders and it's corrupt, what are we doing here? What are we doing here? We are one of these nations that for so many years we've been like, oh, Venezuela's got corruption. America's got corruption. So in my eyes, this is our last shot at being a American republic, democracy. People vote for elected officials and they go to office. And if they don't, I have no problem saying I'm all in for revamping, toss it out the window. America had a good run. Let's start the next one. And I love the red, white, and blue. I do. But I have much more allegiance to the people and this land than I do the flag and the government. And I'll say that to my core. So if this time has run its course and it's time for the next one, so be it. But I hope that we can be a government of integrity, and that opportunity we'll see.
Alex, thanks for a good answer. I can understand your frustration with the system, because being in the system now and spending a lot of time with people like John and Rod that have also been in the system, it's frustrating. There's a lot of great blood coming up through the ranks. I've got a wonderful interview on the back end of 76 with Kat Kamak, from Congresswoman from Florida, who's one of these freshman congresswomen that are exactly what you're desiring the government to be, that have a voice. I've got a couple little housekeeping things at the end. I want to make sure I get to it. But Alex, I got one last question for you. I think it relates to everything that you said, which is, getting into politics is a marathon. It's not a sprint. And I'm just wondering, when you're on Ninja Warrior and you're getting ready to go, right, your turn, where do you pull your inner strength from, or where would you advise people to pull some inner strength from to get through the election season and become elected? Because it's tiring, the process, it's hard asking people for money or support, knocking on doors is embarrassing, all these things. Where do you pull your strength from, and how do people get that when they don't have it in the first place?
Yeah, I think that's a great question. I'll just say, two things on that. One is really being clear on, is this something you want to do? And whatever you touch in with for that, God, your soul, your loved ones, your family, your values. So I would really say, just to really source and evaluate, what is this for you? And then if you've decided it's for you, and this is something that I've learned with American Ninja Warrior and other things, American Ninja Warrior, we train for a year, not knowing if you'll get invited or if you'll get accepted or not be able to. Once you've made that choice of you're in, this is kind of what I referenced earlier, but you're in. You've decided that this matters, and your priorities and your values and your life and the greater self. And so I would just say, honor that commitment and know that, there's going to be some embarrassing moments, frustrating moments, wonderful moments, all the moments, but you're in for them. And to just kind of, as they come, just, that's one of them. That's one of them right there. Gosh, what a wonderful moment. Or that was a tougher one, but we're in. So, have some peace, I would say, in that, knowing that you're on the right journey.
I love it. A couple of things just for the group, and then I'll have my closing statements for Alex, is right now, election season, we're coming into summer. A lot of us are hit with inflation in our different cities. Sounds crazy to say this out loud, because I know Colorado and California listens to this, but we'll probably see gas at $6 a gallon in the summertime, which they're already seeing up to 7, 8, 9 in some places. If you're running for election, be cognizant of your budget. Map out the rest of the year, be smart with your money, and know that those donations that you've been receiving are going to start dwindling down a little bit. And we need to be smart if we're going to beat the opposition with our funding. And if you do that, you'll have an upper hand on them, because I'm guessing that they're not a part of a great group like this to get some good advice on how to run their campaigns. Don't forget, there's some great resources behind there. Also, like Alex said, show up. If you're in, you're in. Do the homework, learn, be educated, show up, and be strong. And I'm going to let Rod tell us who next week's guest is. And Alex, before I do that, I just want to thank you for being transparent and being honest and being who you are. And it really means a lot to think about your position. You know, we've always glorified people on television that we see in the spotlight. And I know you're not looking for glory, but yet you're one of those people in the spotlight. And for you to be as normal as you are and as wonderful as you are with your messaging and your time, I'm just very grateful for you for doing that for us so we can kind of touch that world a little bit. So thank you.
Thank you. Thank you for that. And Jim and Rod, thank you so much for what you do unwaveringly.
Yeah. Rod, go ahead.
Well, first, again, thanks again, Alex. It was a pleasure having you here. I consider you a mentor and a friend, and a fellow warrior. That's probably the best part, because and she's a college student, and she follows Turning Point and Charlie Kirk, and yet she's come up against, you know, the whole CRT. And she's, you know, Charlie Kirk's advice is, well, just, you know, suck it up and be quiet and get your degree. Don't make waves. Just get in there and get out. Do what you have to do. And she found herself, in fact, in her bio here that she sent over, she said, college academia was not a mountain that I expected to climb along the way, but it has made me realize that my fight starts now, not later. And she has not followed that advice of Charlie Kirk, but she has started fighting back directly to the professors. And I know a couple of you, I've shared her letter, her class recommendation, or not recommendation, but they wanted a synopsis of the class, you know, the little survey at the end, and it's scathing and it's honest and it's truthful. And I think it takes the same kind of courage that you've had to do, Alex, to stand up against the system and said, this is where I draw the line. And many of us in the fight, in the political battle, who have thrown our hat in the ring, we've reached that line. So we're excited to have her and get her insights on that, because we all need that encouragement to stay in the battle. Jim, I'm gonna turn it back to you. I see there was another hand up.
That was a clap for Megan. And by the way, we've had such wonderful guests on this show. There was a brief recap in the invite tonight. Last week we had Mary Todd. Her son was assassinated in China, talked about her story and why she's running for Congress. Before that, we had Megan Wildwood, admitted a socialist out of Seattle. Megan just jumped on. I'm sure she just came from work. Wonderful shows you can listen to on the back end. And beyond next week, we're going to have shows about marketing and how to run your campaigns and budgets and things like that. So if you're enjoying the calls, refer the group. We'd love to have you. If you want to get in the back end, become a member. And Alex, thank you so much for your time. We look forward to catching up. And I will put in the notes some of your information, but you can find Alex on Instagram, very prominent. So everybody enjoy your nights. Thanks you for being on the show.
Thank you all.